in your life before you met us all. And so interesting things here. So his interest in photography started at the age of 8 when he first saw the images of Ansel Adams in the local library. This interest continued through high school as he developed black and white film and prints in his father's darkroom. In 1988, his interest in photography was rekindled after buying a motorhome and traveling with his family to most of the national parks and major state parks in the US. I'd have fanny fatigue after all that.
It took 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, And then after that 10 years of travel, they had visited 48 states, all Canadian provinces, and documented the travels in a 2,000-page website chronicling these travels. And I looked at that today, and I'm ready to travel. I mean, I was planning my next trip, but his website is, maybe we can put it up later, but it's really interesting. It's cross-country-trips.com, and really, really interesting. And finally, at 60, he fulfilled his dream of moving to California, and with the discovery of our club, his passion for photography was rekindled. And we can certainly see that in all your photography. It's been wonderful. And Herb's topic tonight is color theory and practice, one engineer's attempt to turn science into art. So take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
Before I start, I want to thank everyone for attending this presentation. Mastery, I'm not sure I've achieved it, and I know that many in the club at all levels have far more mastery of many in techniques and aesthetics of photography than I have. I think that's one of the great things about photography as a hobby. It provides enough learning opportunity for multiple lifetimes. I've been trying to learn about color for about a year, and I think I've only dipped my toe into the ocean. If anyone feels they know better or have made some errors, you're probably right, and I ask for your indulgence. The topic is huge, and I've only been able to provide a high-level overview of the subject. So still, if you haven't had any exposure to color theory, it might seem overwhelming at first. Rest assured that I'll provide a copy of the presentation slides as a PDF. We can discuss how, and there'll be a list of YouTube video resources at the end for further exploration. Finally, I'll need to try to keep moving on this to keep it to a reasonable time frame. And so I ask that any questions you have, we'll keep to the conclusion. So with that said, I'll try to figure out how to do the screen sharing stuff. Let's see. Do we have success?
Yes.
Yes.
Good job.
We do.
Good work.
All right. First hurdle over. Color theory and practice, one engineer's attempt to turn science into art. So why this project? Why I chose color as a project. I saw other photographers' images on the web and Instagram and realized they often had a consistent look and feel that my images lacked. Last year, I considered an N4C portfolio, but my images looked extremely unharmonious when viewed on one page. And I looked at artists' paintings and their use of color harmonies and realized that I had a lot to learn. My initial attempts included watching probably 100+ hours of YouTube videos on colors and art. Considered simplifying it just down to 1 or 2 color harmonies, colors that work well together, using a mathematical calculation to generate color complements. Soon realized the entire topic is much more complex and incapable of being reduced to simple math. I actually had a spreadsheet where I was calculating color wheels and 180 degrees, and my first challenge was there are multiple color wheels. So of course that gives you multiple answers to what the complement is of any particular color. So I admitted defeat for a color by numbers approach and attempted to find a more organic, artistic approach rooted in fundamental aesthetic truths. Who this is for? Those with an interest in refining their current color image workflow. It's best for those categories that allow for creative expression using color, pictorial and creative, but with subtle use. I think it's also viable for travel, nature, and journalism. It's not going to be useful, or at least directly used, for those who already know this, who have an innate sense of color, or want to use color in a wildly non-traditional way. And we're not going to go into color lookup tables, LUTs, preset filters, or other automated processing means. There's lots of other ways to automate a look. And what we're really looking at here is taking an existing image and tweaking the colors a little bit to make them more harmonious. Now, the squares on the left-hand side of the screen are not just random decoration. In this case, they're the primary complementary colors from the artist color wheel, which is red, yellow, blue. So the complementary colors here are red and green, yellow and magenta, and blue and orange. The objectives of the presentation are to impress the importance of proper color palettes and harmonies in an image, to begin to see the world, images, movies, art, advertising, and graphics from the perspective of color harmonies, to build a foundation, kindle an interest in, and promote a lifelong exploration of the use of color, to learn to use a few tools to analyze existing images, artwork, and deduce color harmonies, and to begin to use a raw image processor to tweak images into pleasing color harmonies. The colored squares here are the primary complementary colors from the modern additive color wheel. This is what we used in Lightroom and Photoshop, which is a RGB, or red, green, blue. So the color complementary pairs are red and cyan, green and magenta, and blue and yellow. Professional inspiration. This is my first step. I went and looked at photographers that I admired and downloaded sample images from their websites. I put them into Lightroom and made 4x3 contact sheets to see 12 images on one page. These are not the full images because they just fit into whatever the format was of a 4x3, but they're giving enough of a sense of what the color scheme is. This is useful to judge the overall style, feel, and color palettes used, and good for inspiration if a particular color scheme feels right for one of your own images. And I actually wound up printing these contact sheets out and putting them on the wall, and so I can look at that and see if I find a particular color that might work with an image that I have. Benjamin Everett is one of, I guess, my favorite landscape photographers. Here he tends to use a lighter desaturated palette of pastel colors. These were 12 images taken there, and they're all generally have the same kind of look and feel. Jeffrey Beckham is using a deeper, darker, richer saturated colors. Few colors and simple graphic color schemes. So quite a departure from the previous. Peter Lick. I used to think that Peter Lick was wildly oversaturating his images, but his work sells into 7 figures. So I guess I need to evaluate my standards. Still, they're relatively simple color-wise with good balance at high saturation levels. Matthew Vanneau has a more simple palette of pastel colors. These are actually photographed in Brest in Brittany, but it appears more to be California or southern Florida. Guy Tal is another well-known landscape photographer who isn't shy about turning up the saturation. Still, the colors work well, together, and the color choices are obviously not random. Joe Cornish is a British landscape photographer who uses subtle earth tones to convey the feeling of the woodlands. So no bright, wildly saturated colors here, but more subtle use. Theo Bosboom is a Dutch landscape and nature photographer who also uses strong color and mostly complementary color schemes. On the art side, Alfred Bierstadt was one of the most influential landscape painters of the Hudson River School. Colors are deeply saturated with luminous lighting effects. Edward Hopper was an American realist painter with deep saturated color palette, often used to illustrate a sense of melancholy. And something totally different, there's a Facebook page called Cinema Palettes, where you can explore palettes that have been taken from scenes in cinema. Movies often use extreme examples of how far colors can be shifted from reality for the sake of provoking an emotional response in the viewer. This will go back and forth within the scenes. So what have we learned? Color evokes emotion. Color palettes can be wildly variable and still be believable. That simple use of colors is often more effective. The color schemes are real and can help communicate a uniform personal vision or style. So consistent style, is it even necessary to have one? Maybe not. Maybe you process each image to bring it out its best. Or maybe when you're learning to find a style that fits you best. Maybe yes, if you're a professional, it needs a consistent professional appearance. A wedding photographer needs to advertise that this is the look you'll get. Or for portfolios or exhibitions that require a consistent look. Or maybe both. Try projects in different styles to learn to color control and discipline, and expect that your style may evolve over time. Basic color wheel and theory. So here's some of the vegetables of it. We got to eat first before we get to play. So early color history. In 1666, Isaac Newton uses a prism to discover that all colors are contained in white light. I thought this was really interesting that, you know, the spectrum is continuous, but he divides the spectrum of colors into 7 colors, same as days of the week and musical notes in an octave. He wraps the first color red and the last color violet into a circle or color wheel, and the foundation for our childhood mnemonic, Roy G. Biv, is born. While Newton approached colors from a scientific perspective, Wolfgang von Goethe approached it from a more human perspective. In 1810, Goethe mapped the colored circle into the emotional effect that colors have on humans. Many more emotional color wheels have been developed to further refine Goethe's original wheel. And you can go online and Google this and you'll get, you know, dozens of them with all sorts of detailed emotions per each shade and saturation level. This is perhaps a little confusing, but this is the artist color wheel. I guess the original that came from artists for mixing their paints. And it's subtractive in the sense that when you mix all paints together, you get a black mush. So the 3 primary colors here are red, yellow, and blue. If I can point, yeah, does that show up? Yellow, red, and blue. And they're mixed to form the secondary colors, which are shown with the S's here. Mixing a primary and secondary color yields a tertiary color. Complementary colors are 180 degrees or opposite on the color wheel. So on the artist color wheel, red and green are complementary, yellow and magenta are complementary, and blue and orange are complementary. The modern color wheel is additive from mixing light. This is the RGB that we're all familiar with in Lightroom. The three primary colors of red, green, and blue are mixed to form the secondary colors. Here too, primary and secondary color yields tertiary, and complementary colors are 180 degrees or opposite on the color wheel. And so here we have red and cyan, green and magenta, blue and yellow. So in the additive color wheel, mixing all those colors together forms white as opposed to black in the other. So which color wheel is right for color harmonies? I could not get a clear answer on this from any of the videos directly. Whatever looks good. One basic color harmony is called complementary. It uses two colors 180 degrees apart on the color wheel to maximize color contrast. However, with two different wheels, that would mean two different answers. Seems that when using only two complementary colors, there's considerable latitude from the precise 180 degrees. The overall intent is to mix cool and warm colors to maximize contrast. Still, it seems that the artist wheel, red, yellow, blue, is generally used for color scheme development, since the two major color scheme development engines, one based on artist color wheel and one based on the modern additive color wheel, come up with approximately the same answer. This is one of the most popular online websites that can be used to develop harmonious color schemes. It's at Paladin.com, and it uses the artist's RYB color wheel. So it's red, 120 degrees over here is yellow, and 120 degrees over there is blue. Red, yellow, blue. So directly across from the red at 180 degrees is the green. And that would be expected for the artist's palette. The other website that's used to develop coordinated color schemes is adobe.color.com. Adobe.com uses a modern RGB color wheel, but here the red hue is at 0 degrees as expected, same as the other, but it's an RGB. The hue at 180 degrees is cyan. However, when you use a base color of red and ask for a complementary color by selecting complementary here on the side, it proposes a greenish hue at 137 degrees. That's shown down here using hue, saturation, and brightness, 137 degrees. It also generally follows the artist wheel for yellow and violet and blue oranges as well. And so that's kind of made me feel good, because I've never seen a compelling image that has red and cyan as its complementary colors. Red green is far more often seen. So some practical considerations and challenges. Calibrated system is important for accurate color work. A completely calibrated system will accurately express color in a given gamut from camera to monitor to print. Professionals or others requiring absolute color accuracy from and between multiple cameras can use an X-Rite color checker passport to generate custom camera profiles for a raw editor. This thing is kind of cool. You take a picture of it, you put it into Lightroom or Photoshop, and run a little program, and it generates a custom camera profile that basically normalizes or corrects your particular camera and any other camera you might own, so that they'll all produce the exact same colors. However, most won't really need this, since so much of color is open to artistic interpretation, and requiring multiple cameras to be exactly the same is more important, I guess, for a wedding photographer that has multiple people shooting at the same time. However, using a monitor generally calibrated to sRGB color space with a D65 white point and a gamma of 2.2, using an I1 or Spider or whatever other device is useful to ensure, and more than useful, it's pretty required to ensure that most others will view the exact colors that you intend to display. Colors live in a three-dimensional color gamut. Color gamut is the range of colors that a device can produce or record. Since this is three-dimensional, we need three sets of coordinates to describe a unique color. We usually use hue, saturation, and brightness to specify a color, because that fits with the color wheel. Hue is a measure in degrees of the color wheel from 0 to 360. sRGB is a standard for digital images on the web and print, but we can see on the edge it's the most restricted color palette. Adobe RGB can theoretically represent 35% more color range, which some prints and higher end monitors can display. This gets complicated real fast, and if anyone is more interested, they can take a look at that on their own. Photoshop's color picker shows 5 different color models. So there are 5 ways of expressing the exact same color, in this case, 100% saturated red. HSV, or hue, saturation, brightness / value, is going to be used for the remainder of this discussion for consistency with the color wheels. RGB shows the 0 to 255 of each of the red, green, blue guns. In this case, it's all maximum red at 255. LAB, or lightness, luminosity, A and B, it's interesting in that the L component, or luminosity, is equal to the human perception of brightness. We'll get to this a little later, but note that pure red has 100% HSB brightness, but a luminance, what the eye sees, of 61%. The HTML number down here can be used to transfer colors between colors, adobe.com and paladin.com. Because these use 2 different color wheels, the hue degree doesn't match in many cases. So using this number here is a way you can transport a color scheme from one online color model to the other. Okay, this is a perhaps a little confusing image, but it's pretty relevant. Let's say this is a kind of a cake, and on the top it has the color wheel, and then on the exterior of the color wheel are the hues, which is a pure form of color at 100% saturation and 100% brightness. And this goes from 0 to 360. 0 is red all the way around and back. The saturation levels go from 0 to 100%. And then in the exterior of the perimeter of the cake, say, it's 100%. And when it goes into the beginning, an unsaturated hue, all unsaturated hues, reduced to pure white. The third dimension, which you don't see on a normal color wheel, is brightness or value, and it's kind of underneath it. So in this instance, the color wheel has been cut away, and we're looking at one slice of it, which is what you also see when you look at the Photoshop color picker. And in the Photoshop color picker, you pick a color or a hue, pure hue on the side here, and then along the y-axis, a value is selected. Along the x-axis, a saturation level is selected. So these are all colors that come out of one particular hue. one of the 360 degrees of U. So in this entire thing, there's an awful lot of colors. So selecting a key color is the foundation from which all matching colors is derived. Single U can have tints, tones, and shades. This is perhaps more for artists and paint mixing. But the tints are U's mixed with white, which reduces saturation. And shades are U. So imagine a tube of paint mixed with black, which reduces brightness. And tones is the same, mixed with various shades of gray, affecting both saturation and brightness. The underlying U remains unchanged. U's mixed with their complement will fade to white in the additive color model. So this is where we get the complements. We color balance by adding the complementary color and get out any overall color tone. Luminosity and brightness are not the same thing. Brightness, as indicated by the HSB model, will not directly correlate with the human eye's perception of brightness, or luminosity as that is known. So I took, I guess I made these in Photoshop, and these are 100% red, cyan, blue, yellow, green, and magenta, 100% brightness level. And then I looked at the LAB model and saw what the luminosity level of each of those were, and made a gray swatch equal to that luminosity level. So remember from the beginning that red was a 61 luminosity, the same as magenta in this case. Yellow is the brightest at 100%, and blue is the darkest. So perceived brightness is not the same as luminosity. This is one of the reasons you can't just do it by the numbers. The eye doesn't perceive it as the numbers do. Shades of gray. Note that bright colors and or light luminous colors advance while dark colors appear to recede. The eye can be fooled by surrounding colors. Another reason why it doesn't work by pure math. These checkerboard squares, A and B, are both 50% luminant by Photoshop. And to my eyes, it's an illusion. I've seen it 100 times, and I still take it into Photoshop and use the color picker and measure them to verify they really are 50% gray. And these two color squares are also the exact same color. So our perception of color is influenced by the colors and tones around it. What this means is that the search for a numerical formulation for good color will fail without using human perception. So what do we now know? Tools to develop color harmonies. Color wheels can help develop color harmonies. A calibrated system is important for accurate work. The eye can be fooled by surrounding colors and luminosity. And color is mathematically complicated and can't be done by formula alone. Color harmonies and tools to use. There's a lot on this slide, but we'll go through each one of these individually later. But color schemes are colors that work well together. Color.adobe.com and Paladin.com are two online color scheme generators. The base or key color is the dominant color of the scheme and is selected first. For photographs, this is the color around which the rest of the scheme is developed. And it's usually the one that sets the overall tone and feel of the image. Color schemes allow us to select from the 16 million colors in RGB and reduce them to a few that are pleasing to look at together. They'll have similar brightness and saturation levels to go well together. So a monochromatic scheme uses tints, tones, and shades of a single hue to make a more simple, restful color scheme. Analogous color schemes are derived from a central key U and then 2 U's on either side of the key. This lower contrast scheme is useful for peaceful, natural color schemes. There's 12 colors, and so each of them are separated by 30 degrees because it's 360 degrees to make an entire circle. And that's the default setting on Palatine, but you can adjust that as to taste in many cases. Complementary color schemes are very effective, using 2 U's from opposite or 180 degrees on the color wheel to provide maximum contrast. They're easier to use for the beginner, and it's the first thing that I tried after using analogous color schemes. Split complementary, it's a little more complex, and it essentially uses an analogous scheme without the central key color or with. I have some that use it with the central key color, and gives it ability to have a little more increased contrast and color complexity. Triads are less often used, but combine 3 U's evenly spaced apart or at 120 degrees. This is a high contrast scheme. The tetradic or square uses 4 evenly spaced U's, and there's a double split complementary where you actually have 2 complementary pairs, and I have not even tried to do that yet. But there are examples of people who do this successfully within the YouTube videos that are in the appendix of this. A simple artist's color wheel can help learn harmonies. Besides the online color generators, a simple artist's color wheel can help one learn harmonies without the need for a computer. Continued use, recognition of color harmonies can become second nature, even for those who have never concerned themselves with matching wardrobe selections before. So this is Palatine.com. It's an online color harmony generator. Very popular. It works by selecting a key U by dragging the color around the rim of the color wheel. In this case, it's teal. On the top, you can select the single color. You can add a complementary. It can become analogous with a complementary or a triad. And the distance between the U's can be changed from the default of 30. And on the bottom, the base RGB is where the color from adobe.color.com can be added. This center dot on the orb, this is kind of like the Photoshop slice of color. In the middle, it comes up in the middle normally, but you can raise it to increase the luminosity or brightness, and saturation levels are increased by going to the right. Since this is based on the artist's RYB and not RGB color wheel, the U degrees won't match between the two, and the HTML color hex code can be used to match the 2 tools on a base color level. Color.adobe.com is really cool. It's an online color harmony generator and a online color harmony extractor. So this is really useful to see what someone else is doing and to see whether or not your image is conforming to a color scheme. It has an extract theme tab, and you can take an image, any image, in this case is the image by Jeffrey Beckham, and drag and drop it onto the page, and it will generate the color palette from the existing colors in the image. And the cool thing is, once it's extracted, you can click on color wheel, and it then takes those colors and puts them on the color wheel. And you can see whether or not it's fitting with any kind of the color scheme that you're familiar with. This can be used to confirm the success of an attempt to use a scheme or indicate which hues should be shifted to more closely conform to desired color scheme. In this case, it's almost a perfect split complementary. Using the HSB color mode will give you the hue in degrees. Down here, this color mode can be selected HSB and some other ones, but the HSB gives you the degrees that you can use to match the color in Lightroom or Photoshop. You can also drag this whole thing around the wheel and generate other equivalent color schemes, or push this in and out to change the saturation level. So I've got 5 personal examples of each of these color schemes to hopefully make the point. We'll start with the simplest ones. This is a monochromatic color scheme. It uses a single key hue of near pure red. It's here, your hue of 3 degrees, which is red. The key color shown is desaturated by its location from left of center. And it's using tints, tone, and shades for a simple restful color scheme. The same image dropped into coloradobe.com shows that it is a monochromatic image as well. These are the colors that it has extracted. This is an image from Zabriskie Point in Death Valley. And when you look at the color wheel, after looking at extract theme, you can see the colors in the wheel are all the same hue. In this case, 5 degrees. All colors are going to lie in a straight line from the center of the wheel in a monochromatic scheme. And Nancy tells me this is actually eligible for submission as a monochrome image, since it all uses one particular hue. Analogous. The next color scheme selected up here are multiple colors on the same side of the wheel. In this case, the key color is also a teal. It's moved up and to the right, meaning it is saturation and brightness is increased by being moved up there. The 2 analogous hues are those located 30 degrees on either side of the key color. And this is usually a lower contrast peaceful scheme. Or in this case, it's because it's increased saturation, it might be not that restful. But here's the same image brought into coloradobe.com. This is a shot from Mono Lake. And same thing here. It has extracted the same colors. And looking at that on the color wheel, all the colors lie on the same side, roughly 30, 60, 90 degrees. With similar saturation levels. In fact, in this case, they're all highly saturated, 96, 98%. Teal is the key color, with blue and green as analogous hues. Here is a complementary color scheme in Paladin.com. It uses a key hue of teal, same here, but the saturation was reduced and the brightness increased, so it's more of a pastel color. The complementary color of orange is directly opposite at 180 degrees. This is a big Hollywood color scheme, orange and teal. Here is that image dropped into coloradobe.com for an extract theme. This was giant rock out in the desert. And looking at the color wheel, you can see that the colors pretty much fit directly across from each other. Complementary colors lie directly opposite or 180 degrees from the key hue on the color wheel. It's on a straight line from one side to the other. This can provide a more stronger contrast in color. An example of a split complementary scheme. This is also using teal on the base color and the complementary colors. In this case, not moved far off of center. So this is I guess a saturated, rich color scheme to start with. Here's the image that generated this. I'm not sure where is it? This is somewhere in Spain, I think. Not even sure anymore. But the original image didn't look like this. I had to tweak the blue to the tealish to make it work. And looking at the color wheel, it's pretty much a clean split complementary. Original image had the water more down here, and it did not look nearly as harmonious as it does here. My final example is a triad. They're less frequently used, but combine 3 hues evenly spaced at 120 degrees. It's a high contrast color scheme. So here I actually have a red, yellow, and a blue. Dragging that into coloradobe.com. This is in Yosemite Valley, and we've got red, green, and a blue background. And they're evenly spaced around the color wheel to form a triad color harmony. So color schemes that work, not just for artists or those with an innate sense of color. We've seen 5 examples of color schemes that work reasonably well. Schemes do not have to be exact to be viable. There are tools that can be used to develop schemes from a base color. The tools can also be used to get inspiration from professional photographers and artists. So this is my first attempt to try to get colors, extracting bad colors in Adobe.com. And the beach was not working well, but I really liked the green in the waves. So hitting the color wheel, the undistinguished color palette lies in a straight line through the center of the color wheel, indicating a complementary color scheme might work. So you can drag this around, and I got a green color that I like that might work for the water, and the complementary color that was proposed is a red/coral color for the sand. So I put it into Photoshop. Overall color balance was adjusted to make the water match the proposed color of green. The sand was selected with the mask, and then a hue saturation layer with colorize selected was used to generate matching coral sand color. And this is my first attempt at a deliberate color harmony. And that was before and after, and it's just an image of Blind Beach. But nothing was done except by changing the sand color to one that matched per Adobe's direction. So some common problems that I found when starting is using too many colors or colors that don't work well together. Too much indiscriminate saturation. No color negative space or a place for the eyes to rest with less saturation. Some cases, not enough saturation, too little contrast. Not balancing color proportions and weight. There's lots of stuff on that, 60, 30, 10% or whatever, where you have 60% the background, 30% major element, and 10% spice or whatever to bring it out. That's something I'm still trying to figure out. So one approach, how to make good colors in Lightroom, Adobe Camera Raw, or other RAW processor. Ideally, consider color schemes during the shoot. Start using global adjustments to help set a base color. Plan a scheme with color wheel and/or comparables. Use the HSL sliders to tweak individual colors. And finally, use selections with color ranges, masks, and brushes for individual elements. So we'll try to go through the major tools in Lightroom or any other raw editor per se that can impact color. So the first thing that happens when you bring a color into, an image into Lightroom is it'll select the camera profile. It can be a camera calculated accurate profile using the Macbeth calibration, or dozens of Adobe camera matching, artistic, or other profiles that will present an alternative base image for editing. We have Adobe Color, Landscape, Neutral, and in addition, there's also a bunch of presets for various color and artistic effects. I mean, it's useful, but I like working with a basic standard image, so I know where I'm going, and everything I'm doing is under my control and something that I have done. If I do too much of a preset stuff, I have no idea how I got there after. But others might like trying this out first and using that as a base for other edits. In Lightroom Basic, white balance, vibrance, and saturation are the usual controls. This is Trinity Alps image. So suggestion is to use white balance to set the base color first. Warm or cool will set the emotional bias of an image. If you're adjusting temp and tint, turn up saturation and vibrance temporarily so you can see the effect of the changes more easily, and then pull them back after you've found your correct point. A challenge with color is that anytime exposure contrast is changed, it's going to impact the saturation levels. So you need to go back and maybe revisit it. This could be confusing. This is probably one of the most important panels for color adjustment to conform to a given color harmony. What I did here was I made a little, I guess, dots of each of the colors. At the top is a pure U 100% saturation, and these are the degrees of the colors. And then I went 75% saturation, 50 and 25% saturation. So with no changes or no adjustments, this is the way it is. You can adjust the U, saturation, and luminance sliders in the HSL panels to shift the color of individual U's on the color wheel. Left will go counterclockwise or lower degrees. Right will go clockwise or higher degrees. The saturation and luminance can also be adjusted. Typically, these can be used to balance out saturation levels individually instead of globally with vibrance and saturation. And so if you're doing color work, it might make it easier to start with a flatter overall global saturation level and then dial it in specifically as needed. Unwanted colors can be eliminated or shifted to those fitting a color harmony. In this case, I just fooled around a little bit to make the stock coloration into more of an orange and teal by shifting red over to orange, orange over, and all the blues and over to aqua. So here's an image of giant rock out in the desert somewhere. And tweaks in hue, saturation, and luminance are used to develop a complementary color scheme. So here, the sky, which was, dark blue and not doing a whole lot in terms of complementary color, was tweaked more to a teal. All right, I'm embarrassed to say this is an image that I actually submitted on the right-hand side, outside of Moab and in Canyonlands, I think. Too much saturation on the active image. I've taken a professional image that I thought might work better for mine, put it into Lightroom as a reference view. I temporarily just put a mask in there to get this select color. And if you take the eyedropper and hold it down, you can click over to this image and it'll measure the hue and saturation level of any particular spot. You can also use color grading. There's an eyedropper and color grading you can use to measure existing image color in Lightroom. I thought you had to go into Photoshop to measure colors, but it's possible in Lightroom also. So I knew what I kind of wanted to get to. And the workflow I found that worked best was try to match the hue first using the HSL sliders by look and measurement with the eyedropper. If you start tweaking saturation and luminance, you'll never, I don't think you'll ever get there until the hue is correct. And even then, you're tweaking saturation and luminance. Then work saturation and luminance to try to get to match. Relative color matching for the two images confirmed by eye and measurement if you would like. For more targeted image correction, Lightroom masks and the new masks in Lightroom are just incredible. I mean, it's getting more and more powerful. Here, colors can be completely shifted in Lightroom with the color range mask. You can intersect the color range with a brush, a radial, or linear gradient to just get that section selected if you want. Here's a picture of my bike in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So at that point, once its selection is made, you can use color balance controls for little changes, or you can use the hue slider for big shifts. Or you can desaturate the entire selection and just add a color wash to the selection. Selective color can be achieved by desaturating the entire image in the HSL panel and then just adding back the desired hues, or by making selections with brushes and masks and desaturating one section and saturating another. Here's a possible example of how a nature image can be tweaked and still comply to the guidelines, I think. Here's an image of a mother otter with pup. The colors are not that great, unappealing. The regulations state that adjustments in nature category images must appear natural, but I thought possibly an orange and teal green might work. So others have been tweaked. Hue and luminance is tweaked to give a classic orange otter and teal green water interpretation. The otters stand out from the water background. The colors appear plausible and are more pleasing to the eye. Color grading. Lightroom has a pretty good color grading section too. This is something I had not used much before and still I'm trying to figure out. But color grading applies a wash of color over a specified range of luminance. So you can select the hue by degrees on the color wheel, or a sample patch, or by eyedropper of it within the image. Saturation is the distance from the center. Blending changes the luminance range over which the color is applied. So this was a 10-step grayscale to begin with. And in this case, we're doing shadows. So you can see that the blue color, and in this case, I just used the standard blue, is applied up to roughly 50% and then goes away in this case. To change the position between shadow and highlight, the balance is used. Typically, cool shadows are adjusted first. Warmer highlights shown here, and again, using just the standard orange against the blue, the upper in the gray scale, it gets this color wash. Little goes a long way, and creatives can ignore all rules here and apply color with abandon. For those who really want more subtle control, Lightroom gives you midtones and global. I haven't seen a lot of examples on how this is used. Shadows and highlights seems to cover it for me and for most people that I've seen on YouTube using this. But here's an example of the color grading panel can be used to measure hue and saturation. So when you click on this little color selector, and there's an eyedropper, you can then drag that over if you hold the left mouse button down to select from the existing image, and that'll select what the color is and give you what the hue and saturation and luminance level is. It can be useful to confirm a color match against the targeted reference image. A few examples of color grading with the shadows turned off in this one. This is, I think, Yosemite. Best practice seems to be to start with shadows and then go to highlights. This image is a bit flat, and a good complement of yellow and green is magenta. Magenta is added to the shadows for a split complementary color scheme. Most suggest starting with the lower saturation levels and then increasing to taste. This is probably a little overdone, but just to show it well on the screen. Experimentation is useful to learn this technique. Here's another example with Lightroom color grading turned off. This is a color image, actually, of blowing ashes and burnt trees in Owens Valley morning, and it essentially appeared monochrome. I thought about traditional color grading of blues in the shadows and yellow, orange in the highlights. And both shadows and highlights in this example have color applied. The saturation is adjusted to taste, and the dull monochrome image is formed into hopefully a more evocative image. For the sake of completeness and discussion of how you can change colors in Lightroom, Lightroom has a tone curve where you can do individual channels. So the red, green, and blue channels can be red, green, and blue colors can be individually adjusted by the curves. In this case, this was a white wall. So adding a point that deviates from the linear line will increase or decrease that color from that point in the histogram. And here, this is the red channel, and the red in the highlight is just bumped up a hair. Color pairs are red cyan, green magenta, and blue yellow. Curves are very powerful, but I find them difficult to use, and particularly in this instance, and much of the same effect can be done with the color grading panel and with far easier controls. Okay, finally, calibration. This is in Lightroom, and it is something that is not well documented, but I've seen a lot of people are using it for effects that can't be duplicated by other means, really. There are some videos in the appendix that can be used to learn a little bit more, but it directly changes the mix of red, green, and blue in every color in the image. And it's hard to explain without going into it, and it's hard to show a real example. But you can shift the red hue towards orange and the blue hue towards green. And in this case, that's what I did. I just basically switched red to over and blue down. And our normal colors have been switched completely to the beginning of an orange and teal look. But if you don't want to go through that kind of drastic coloration change, most commonly the blue saturation and possibly red saturation can be boosted to create an alternative to just dialing up those saturations. And it does really look different. So you can do this in the beginning or end of an image edit. I'm doing it mostly at the end because I'm not that sure how it looks. But sunsets with the red is really interesting, and blue is useful for getting contrast in landscapes. Other thoughts? Color impacts composition. This is Yosemite, obviously. Some guidelines include balance. An image should be weighted evenly with compositional elements. Volume, luminosity, and color can impact the weight of an element. Dark colors have mass and weight, light colors have less. Flow. The eye should move through the frame and generally have a subject upon which to rest. Contrasty, lighter, and more saturated colors can draw the eye in or out of a frame. Depth. Contrast and saturation is reduced with depth in a landscape due to atmospherics. Darker colors recede while lighter colors advance. Finally, sizzle. Emotional impact, atmospheric conditions, extraordinary composition or subject, or a decisive moment that is not easily duplicated. Some images can derive their sizzle through the creative use of colors. Working colors can be difficult. Lightroom snapshots. Attempting to adjust colors without a break can be hard. The eyes easily adapt to new colors and accept them as valid. Better to take breaks and review work. Another approach that I use all the time is to take snapshots after each new process or material edit, which can then be critically reviewed. This is Bantham Beach, I guess, Wizard's Hat. And what I do is take a snapshot whenever something happens that I think is going well. And instead of just using the date timestamp, I'll put a number in front of it. And I'll then export these snapshots with Lightroom using a sequence number equal to the number of the snapshot. So I can tell when they're exported which snapshot it is. And then I can just view them in a JPEG viewer and go flip back and forth and see the subtle changes and decide which works and which didn't. And those that work, eventually, whoops-a-daisy, will get a little extra at the end, final, and what I did, saturation down and so forth. So it helps keeping on the track. And for me, it lets me go further than I normally would if I were completely inhibited, but knowing that I can go back to a place where I once was and start over and proceed from there. Final conclusions. We're there. Good color is extremely important and can help convey mood and emotion of an image. Learning how to apply color theory is not necessarily easy, but can be learned even by a color-challenged engineer. The topic of color is huge, but there are considerable resources on YouTube to help in the learning process. So experiment with color and have fun. Play with color.adobe.com to analyze images and to develop color schemes. Start with the HSL panel. Try edits with different color approaches. Use snapshots to help evaluate alternatives. Watch YouTube videos of further information on each topic. Any further questions, you can email me directly and I'll see if I can help out. YouTube videos that I found extremely useful for me on color theory and application. The number one is what really started me. Joanna Kustra is a Polish fashion photographer. It's a long video. but it's amazing, and I've watched it 3 times. It's really inspirational to see how much there is behind good color, and it's done in a level that I can aspire towards. What I think she did was she went to museums and used the colored ratings of the masters for her fashion shoots, and did that, and got a book or a national award or whatever. Color theory basic, every photographer must know, is color theory in 13 minutes. Great quick view. Blender is 23 minutes with 5 million views. And Sean Tucker and Jamie Windsor, and finally Learn from Masters channel. This is a great thing to do. Watch on your television. You can look the great masters. It'll go through all their, or many of their paintings, with easy music in the background, and it's a great way to get a sense of color from true artists. And before I conclude, I just want to offer a big thanks to the Advancement Committee for their encouragement in this effort. When I started this, I realized they knew nothing about color and wanted to learn, and so that sounded like a good idea for a project. When I mentioned this to Annie, she said that was great and interesting, as no one had ever done that before. I wasn't sure if she meant the subject color or someone trying to do a master's presentation on something they were completely unqualified for. Nancy gave me encouragement, I think, by telling me we could all learn something from the exercise, even if it was a total train wreck. And finally, a shout out to Terry, who has encouraged me even from the beginning in my initial attempts to learn something about color. And to Bill Stacy, who indulged me in my initial dry run of this presentation. And Martin Johns, who introduced me to the club 4 years ago. So with that, we're done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yay.
Excellent.
That was amazing.
It was totally
It
amazing.
was wonderful.
Brilliant
Wonderful.
recording.
Thank you
Fantastic.
so
Oh,
much.
they make it big again. Oh,
Very
good.
nice.
Just brilliant.
Yeah, I can't wait to try some of these things.
Yeah, me too. I have to watch this recording 2 or 3 times.
Oh,
So we're gonna
Wow,
get
I'm
the slides
overwhelmed.
too.
yeah, I have a PDF of all the slides too, so I don't know what the best means of distributing that is, and whether it should go on the website for download, or whether I'll just send it out to the club at large, or.
Steve, ready? Are you still there? I was going to say,
Yeah,
with this new website, could we put PDFs like this up on the website?
sure. Yes.
Why don't you and Herb get together and figure it out?
Okay. Sounds good.
All
Or you
right.
could just email it.
Emailing it might be easier.
The problem with emailing, and I got an email too, is that I get it, I download it, and then I don't know where it is.
Right. If it's on the
website.
Yeah.
Maybe both.
I know where to go.
Or
yeah,
a link to it, if you had a link in the website, that might work too.
Yeah.
You know, the real thing about this is that was one hell of a presentation, something that I bet you N4C would be very interested in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And putting it
Yeah.
on the website just gives access to a lot more people. They come to the website and they look at this color article and they say, holy mackerel, these people must be something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Had a lot of work for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really
Wow.
great.
Food for
Wonderful.
thought in that
Thank you.
presentation.
It was a useful exercise to me to organize it as well, and
Yeah.
force myself to get into it. And I think it's really, really relevant, because it has changed me. And, we all go through the basic things that we learn with photography. Color was not one of them, to me at least. And,
Yeah.
and now I look at an image is not done until I figured out how it fits within the color spectrum and whether the colors really work together.
I do have a question, Herb. How many colors do you actually personally see? I joke in that I see 8 colors 32 colors, light and dark on the basic 8. How many do you see? You know, because Adobe has like 256.
Well,
You know, with
the
your
human eye
eyes, I
can-
mean.
The human eye has ability to see, well, it's not millions, but it's hundreds of, it's a lot. It's a large number.
And what about you yourself?
I've never
How do you
counted.
know?
Okay.
I know, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
And color being subjective too a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I mean, some people are natural with this. I mean, I don't know, maybe the girls in high school, I remember they would come in, they would be dressed up in great stuff, and I'd be in jeans and the t-shirt that smelled the least. And that was it. So I mean, the girls seemed to get it at an early age, and it took a long time before I even began.
Well, I think that depends on your experiences, you know, if you live with an artistic family and or
Yeah.
people who put clothes together.
Mhm.
I'm curious about where and if even selective color in Adobe Photoshop would fit into this, because you can change. So you go into selected color and say you choose blue, and you can take the magenta out of the blue, which changes the hue.
Yeah, I think you can do this in Lightroom. If you mean taking an image and only having one color be dominant and have the rest be monochrome,
But to change any one color.
that's pretty simple now with the Lightroom masking. And you can select a range of color, and you can dial in how precise it is and how much the blending is out. And once you've selected a mask of that color, you can now change that color to anything you want. That was the motorcycle example, kind of.
Yeah.
You can now take that, if it's small changes, you can just use the hue and tint. And if it's bigger, there's a hue slider on bottom where you can really go to town from one side or the other. Or you can take the whole thing and desaturate that mask selection and then do a color overlay, a color wash on the entire thing or whatever you want it to be. So there's multiple ways of changing any color. And I think that the thing I've figured out kind of is you do the big stuff first. You set the overall base color using the least challenging, maybe it's just color balance, and to get that right, and then take stuff which is easy in Lightroom now. You can select sky, or you can select foreground, you can select subject. So all that, then you can take that and tweak that a little bit if you like. And it comes out looking pretty natural, even though you've done some pretty, drastic stuff if you look at the before and after.
I
Really?
loved your examples of the photographers in the beginning of their different color,
Yeah.
Yeah.
palettes.
It's
And
very
it's like-
interesting.
Yeah,
I
I would recommend that for everyone to do. If you find your favorite photographers or people you love or artists that you like, and download a bunch of their stuff, put it onto a contact sheet, and I've got them hanging on the wall. And when I'm looking at something that I don't know what color this should be, I either go up there and look and go, aha, that it looks really nice, and then I can take that thing and put it in reference view in Lightroom, and get the one color dialed in. And then it can go into the other stuff to find a harmony that might work.
Herb, you talked a little bit about using the eyedropper to pick a color, and you said you have to hold, is it shift down?
No,
to
just left mouse.
left mouse.
Yeah. You just take left mouse and you can drag that eyedropper across the screen, and it'll measure the color wherever you let it park or stop with it. I was hoping it would go cross screens, but I haven't gotten that to work really. I think it works in Photoshop, not in Lightroom, whatever, where you could actually do an eyedropper across multiple screens. But if you have a reference view in Lightroom, it's all you need, because you can just drag an image that you like into the reference view and then measure its its colors there. But the key thing I found with that is that the U is critical. If you just try to start matching colors by, doing U saturation and luminance willy-nilly, it's kind of like I never get there. I've got to lock in the U and then do saturation and luminance to get there.
Mhm.
No, you didn't mention this. You mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that you weren't going to get into color lookup tables or LUTs. But if you're looking at a particular photographer or artist and you have a bunch of samples, I'm not sure about Photoshop and Lightroom because I use Affinity Photo. But you can take an image that you like, generate a color lookup table from it and output that, then go to one of your own images and say, apply that color lookup table to it. And in one step, it does all the colors, saturations, brightness, etc.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a whole world of ways of doing that. And I think Photoshop, the adobecolor.com has an extract color grading, and you can drag images into Photoshop and you can extract the color grading theme also and then apply that to other images. I would be more than another hour, and I don't even know how to do that, so I wouldn't be qualified. But Steve, if you want to go for it, it's there.
There's no way you can cover it all.
You.
No.
Yeah, there's so much I'm thinking as you went along that I need to go back and check that out, and the new Lightroom, it just got all these new little bells and whistles that are just like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there are YouTube resources on all of these topics. You can pick, just Google into YouTube one particular aspect, you'll see half a dozen people. The videos I have here are kind of just the ones I thought were best of an overview, but I've probably got dozens that refer back to, and artists. I wound up getting into the artist coloration and color wheels there, and how they decide to do it. I mean, if someone who is an artist knows this better, on the different means of coloration and shading and graduation this is all I could comprehend in one swoop, and this is all I thought I could reasonably well present. So that's where we left it at.
Excellent.
Great job.
Excellent.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
Great job, Herb.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
All right, so I'll send this off to Steve, a PDF form, and we can talk or email later on what to go next steps.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very
Excellent.
nice.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I am going to have dinner, I think.
Okay.
Earned it. Good
Thank you
job.
very much.
Thank you very much.
And next
Okay.
comes the portfolios.
Yes, we're gonna have Steve talk,
You
right?
can eat while you,
While you watch the portfolies.
Thank you. Good night.
but thank you. You have been such an inspiration.
Truly.
Yep, too late. He's hungry.
Thank you very much. It was a very wonderful first lecture for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't expect them all to be like this.
This one will live in infamy.
It will indeed.
Sometimes we
Totally.
just do selfies.
I'm
Yeah,
going to have to step away. Nice meeting you all. But
All right,
I just-
welcome.
well,
I'm looking forward to looking at the recording of this to look at the portfolios.
excellent.
And thank you for your welcoming.
You betcha, Ed.
You bet.
Have a
Glad to
nice
have
night.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
And so for the portfolios,
Could we take a quick break?
yes, we can. 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then we'll go into it.
Okay.
And Steve, well, I've got you here. How long before you anticipate having a workspace for testing website stuff? Mic is turned off.
Sorry. I have no schedule for that. However, I will put it on my to-do list. And are you
I was hoping to be able to test out my documentation scenarios in time to have a demo for the December board meeting.
so if I were to duplicate the site and call it test.santarosa.com, that's all you need?
Probably.
Okay. So I am very busy right now, but I don't know
No
how
rush
long
right
you-
now. I've got all the end of year competitions to do first.
Okay, so I will do that for you, Steve, as soon as I can. And when it's done, we'll get together and I'll show you how to get it into it. And then you pretty much can have a field day with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for those who are interested,
Oh,
I broke
Oh.
my arm on Friday in a
Oh,
bicycle accident, which is why I wasn't at the exhibition.
How's
Ah.
it, is it feeling better or?
It's mostly pain-free now, except when I first get up in the morning if I've slept on it wrong. But the fall, the bone broke through the skin, making it an open
Yeah.
fracture. So I was in the hospital from Friday. I got out on Monday, was it? Yeah, I got out on Monday because they had me on a 3-day course of intravenous antibiotics because of the open wound.
Yeah.
wow.
How did you fall?
I was teaching myself how to ride a new kind of bicycle,
Oops.
and I made the mistake of, I was practicing on hard-packed dirt path with lots of green, cushy grass all around, and I came around a bend, and where there hadn't been before, they had put a hard-packed paved asphalt path right across it. And I thought, oh, I'll just zip across it. But this half bike, as it's called, doesn't have a steering wheel or a seat. You steer by leaning one way or the other. And I hit the path and not going quite fast enough, and it made me lean slightly to the left. And to the left, it went downhill. And suddenly I was going way too fast. With no seat, you just step off, but I was still going too fast.
Oh, boy.
And I didn't land in the grass on the side. My elbow hit the pavement.
Oh, ouch.
Oh,
Crap.
Yeah.
What part of the bone, where'd the bone come out?
I'm
On
sorry.
the elbow?
The bone came out
Ugh.
right.
Ah,
Oh,
Oh.
man.
The break was just below the elbow. And
Yeah,
and they put a piece of metal in here to,
Yeah.
Oh.
stitch it together. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yikes.
how long do you have to wear a cast?
almost 2 more weeks, and it's going to take 6 weeks to heal.
Maybe need.
Oh, you don't have to wear the cast for the whole 6 weeks?
No, just for the next 2 weeks.
Oh,
Wow.
that's weird.
Why?
Hmm?
Why?
Why do I have to?
Together. Why only 2 weeks?
There's metal in there.
Because of the metal, probably, huh?
Probably.
Well, if, for example, if you look at, and many of us will have to do this, if you look at hip replacement surgery now, it is so advanced that even 6 years ago, a neighbor of mine who had a hip replaced was out of the hospital the next day, and everything was removed 2 days later.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they were up and around, and they said, you've got to, keep your weight off of it, but healing and so forth, it was very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had
You
my
should-
knee replacement and then they had me have to go to the walk to the bathroom that night.
I know, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Steve, I think you need to consider a three-wheeler.
Here we come.
Well, these situations put you new challenges. What do I have to, I can't do, I can't tie my ponytail on the back of my head.
Oh,
That takes two hands.
Yeah.
But I succeeded at doing something with one hand that most people would consider a real challenge. Putting contact lenses in with one hand.
Wow.
oh my gosh.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I switched to glasses for a couple weeks.
Oh, I did while I was in the hospital, but
Mhm.
Yep. We do what we have to do.
That's right.
so shall we take a look at the portfolios?
Yes.
And
How many
Well,
do we
will-
have now?
I think we may only have 4.
Okay.
That's it says images 4. Let me call it up. What I will do is I'll put the first one up. Each one is comprised of an overview slide at the beginning, then the individual shots, and then at the end there's an overview image that has all of the shots together. I will go through and read each slide, and then we'll go back to the beginning and check for comments in case anyone spots anything that seems off,
Mhm.
because this is a team effort. This is Team Santa Rosa entering the portfolio competition. Additionally, Nancy and I haven't worked out what we're doing yet, but if you win in the portfolio competition, the awards are done at the N4C annual, I guess, beginning of February? And
Yeah.
if you first, second, third, fourth, fifth, maybe honorable mentions, we haven't figured out what we're going to do, but we want to award some kind of points or something, maybe if you're at the advancement level, it might be one of those things to help you qualify as a master's candidate. And the master's candidate things last for 4 years. So, for example, it might be if in the past 4 years you placed, you won at the portfolio competition, that may help you. So if people have other ideas, our ears are open. But at the same time, yes, this is Team Santa Rosa effort. And I see Terry is back. Good, because
She's got one.
her portfolio is up first.
Terry? Oh, good. Good.
So Terry, welcome back. Your portfolio is up first.
Yes, I did get that.
Oh, we're getting an echo from you, Terry. Thank you. Now let me see if I can bring it up. I first have to switch and start it.
Yeah, make sure Terry's all in before you get going with hers.
Yeah, I've been kicked out 3 times tonight.
Oh,
It
wow.
automatically let me back in. I didn't have to do anything, but it kicked me out 3 times. Whole screen went solid, nobody moving.
Oh,
Okay, but at least, thank goodness it let you right back in.
It did let me right back in.
Maybe because you and Joel are using the same internet. Gary and I try to not do that.
yeah, we have a little bit of none working here.
Oh, I know. I've got to go to my other screen. One moment. And come on. Okay, now it works on my 2 screens. Let me get back to Zoom. And now, which window has the share button? I think it's, yeah, it's on the other monitor. Except I've got ICM on that one. Give me a moment. It's hard to touch the right screens at the same time. Go ahead and talk. I got to figure this out.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, let's see.
Terry, can you unmute and just tell us that you're there and watching so we know you're gonna,
I'm here, I'm watching.
okay. I just wanted to be sure that you were there.
And not just your name
In name only.
Or,
Yeah.
or your picture,
or picture only.
Linda.
Yes. Got to figure that one out. Although that what's up there probably looks better anyway.
Yeah, if any of you had a chance, last week we were up in the Eastern Sierra and everything was peaking. It was just gorgeous up there. Seemed like everywhere, each one of the different little valleys that we went through, June Lake,
Nice.
and that was Ebbets Pass behind me. And it
Wow.
was real pretty, you know, and Tioga Road on the east side was real gorgeous, you know, so it was just really nice, nice for fall color up there this year.
There's a neat article about June Lake that they're picking garbage out of the lake.
Oh,
You know, fishing things and
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty popular lake for fishermen and other people, so it doesn't surprise me that.
I see you went
Let's
monitor.
see.
Yeah, we came back over Monitor Pass. We like to do the roundabout way. So when we left, we went down and went over Tioga Pass and going in, and then spent 4 or 3 days down in there. And then we came back, I had breakfast at Topaz and went over Monitor. But then for people who kind of know that area, when you get to the other side or this side of Monitor Pass on the west side, then you can either go to Markleyville or take Route 4, which takes you down and goes all the way down to Route 49, you know, down by Angels Camp, you know, and like that. And but yeah, it's like about 20 miles of like, well, it's not wide enough for a white line, for a center line. Yeah, so, but it's really well paved, nice, you know, but you just had to be careful. But just there were some gorgeous spots here.
So is that once you come out Markleyville or Monitor and you would turn right to go to Markleyville? You turn
Yes,
left?
yeah, you turn right to go to Markleyville or 88, yes.
I'm curious, I'll have to try it. Thanks.
Yeah.
we got you on, Steve.
Okay, you're showing portfolios now?
Yep.
Okay. I had to drag a window from one monitor to the other monitor to get it to work. Now let's see if I can get back to the ICM. And now it's not showing me my toolbar on the PC. Oh, fun.
Tell your daddy takes a T-bird away.
Oh, there, let's see. Come on, Zoom, where are you? This is frustrating.
It must be on Zoom because we can see it.
You can see it, but you see, there's a button I have to get to.
Yeah, I don't see any buttons here.
And
Move your cursor and see if that makes it appear.
Oh, and no, it's,
If you do it so it's not full screen.
let me try this. Okay.
Ah,
So even though on the laptop, it's a mix of things and I can't get to the control bar, I found the one I need. Okay, here we go. Everyone has a story. Portraits are an introduction into the soul of the person being photographed. Each person has a story. As a photographer, my desire is to share that story. The camera is my tool, but it is my interaction with the person that bonds me to them. Each of us must walk away feeling fulfilled and respected in order to produce a lasting memory of the moment. Building trust is the key.
So it's ordered. She's got them there. It's in order.
Stories. An interesting stranger sits on a bench at the San Francisco Transit Center. He seems so at peace. I take a photo. It isn't enough. I want to know his story. His name is Michael. He greets me with a ready smile. He comes here to enjoy the shade and read. I hope I captured his gentleness in the photo I took. I carry his smile with me. Tessel. Eva and parents live in Amsterdam. We talked about swapping homes. I read about them later in the Washington Post. Mom has designed a community of houseboats on the water. What stood out about Greg and Daniel was the love they had for each other. Each had suffered and each was grateful to have the other. Greg died a few years back. Ning Hu has an art gallery in Locke, California. He was born and studied in Shanghai. He is normally reserved, but at ease here in his studio surrounded by his paintings. Art is his life. I met this young man sitting outside of the skate park in Willits. He was on his way to somewhere else, just traveling through town, heading north. Brief encounters, photo ties. Emily, a Civil War reenactor, was so tired when I took this photo, she told me she could hardly hold her head up. Without her trust, this photo would not have been possible. Dylan was a photographer at the Ansel Adams Gallery in Yosemite. Through casual conversation, I have gotten to know many Civil War reenactors. Strangers have become friends. The work of the artist on the right, designs are along cultural themes. He takes great pride in his work and in being able to share his Hispanic culture through the tattoos he creates. I shared a Rocamadour tour with Pat and her sister. For them, it was a pilgrimage. Photos can be a way of experiencing things through others you otherwise would not, a gift shared. And the overview image. Any comments?
Is the YouTube up yet from our salon on this? Because I had told Terry about all the things and I don't think that it was up. So she
Well-
could see all the things we said.
I resynchronized minutes before the meeting, so all the changes anyone had made.
No,
this
No,
is
no,
to-
no.
She didn't get to see the YouTube because it wasn't up.
Oh, no.
So what is it?
Oh, no, but nobody texted me that there was a problem.
Does it get automatically posted?
No, Bill would have been, Bill, do you know,
Are we still supposed to look at if there are words that don't sound correct?
Yes, everything.
Okay.
And we,
Too late to make changes?
well, Bill is
Yes,
looking into the YouTube.
yes, yes,
which-
it is up. It's been
Oh,
up for
great.
4 days.
Is it
Okay.
too late to make
It's had,
changes?
it's had
So
4 views already.
It is not too late to make changes, right? Steve?
Right, because I'm closing the competition on the 30th, so I can upload the images to N4C on the 31st, which is the last day to submit them.
Right.
So you have right up to the end.
Okay.
So
And
Well,
Terry,
the
if
only
you,
thing I saw as far as words was that what you mentioned, Linda, about in order.
Yeah, and there's that fellow HOU. I didn't write down what it was, but I
Oh,
think there's,
wow.
oh, ease
Me
instead of
how?
easy.
yeah,
Yeah,
Pardon?
easy instead of ease, it should be, and it says easy.
yeah.
And
And then that
Mhm.
tattoo guy,
Okay.
there was, and I didn't have time to write it down, but something just didn't sound right
Okay.
when
And-
you read it, Steve. Yeah.
I
The-
think it was
I
ready.
think
the
we
work
talked
the
a lot-
artist on the right, yeah,
We had a
did-
long discussion
a long-
on it.
right.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
There was a
The work
long,
the artist and the right designs are along cultural themes.
Hmm.
The designs created by the artist on the right are along cultural themes. Something like, we came up with a couple
Yeah.
of
Because the
possible
work would be
rephrase.
singular. The work is designed, but
Yeah,
if you just said the designs of this artist are along cultural themes, then it would be R. But there's all
Okay,
that
I'll
feedback.
look at that.
The main thing I think that came out of it was just what a beautiful portfolio it is. It's very beautiful.
it's
That's
wonderful.
great.
Yeah. And
Absolutely wonderful.
we made a couple comments about if we put this guy first and this second, it would be easier to relate the titles. It's
Mm.
all on the video.
Okay, I'll check out the video.
And
Great.
if you have any problems whatsoever making the changes, email me as soon as you can, because I have access to some tools. Where, for example, if you tried to change the order of the sequence and it didn't work out, I can go in and fix it. But I have to have, as much lead time as possible.
Okay, I'll work on it tomorrow evening.
yeah, and Terry, we had lots of discussion and ideas. It's your choice,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and that's what we want to say, because we had ideas for feedback, what might consider.
Oh, and somewhere else in the discussion, and I don't remember what the conclusion was, but the rules might say something about this image blocking part of that image.
Not so much the rules as how the
Comments.
assessors use this image.
This is what I did last year as well. So I
Uh-huh,
won't.
You had one that blocked something else?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And it should be
Yeah,
fun.
it's not a rule. It's just a convention that when the assessors are assessing, they're looking at this image to give their feedback.
Okay.
But
You've got some great images in here.
Yeah.
right, we all agreed this overview image is gorgeous. And
Wonderful. Yeah.
if it's, you know, passable like that and you really like it, go for it.
Yeah, I like it. I like it because it's over the top of the other image of the same person.
Same
Yes,
guy,
it-
yeah.
It adds to
Yeah.
the subject rather than
Right.
changing it.
Right.
Right.
And
And
the
the-
introduction was that this wonderful picture of the man in the distance, which I absolutely love.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was
But the
great.
idea is that not, the whole idea is this is to talk with the people to get their story. So the overlap there is that this one leads into why all the others are close up.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's how I saw it as well.
That's, so we got that.
Good.
Okay. On to number 2. Ilulissat, iceberg. Disco Bay, Greenland is dominated by icebergs, or Ilulissat in the local language. That name is also used for the nearby town and the World Heritage Site, Ilulissat Ice Fjord. My intent is to show the complex journey of glacial ice through the fjord and out to sea, where weather and water sculpted into fantastic forms. I use images taken from the air, the land, and the sea to tell the story. Icebergs are seen all year in Disco Bay, Western Greenland. Ilulissat Ice Fjord, seen from a small plane, appears to be a static jumble of ice, but the ice is floating and moving down the fjord to the sea. Trails allow hikers to reach the edge of the ice fjord near its mouth to get a closer view of the slowly moving ice. Is that my cursor? Yeah. Let me. The mouth of the ice fjord is choked with large ice chunks that become grounded in the shallower water and impede the progress of the ice behind them. From sea level,
There's a goof, sorry.
the true size of some of these huge ice chunks is much more apparent. Tabular-shaped icebergs can tower up to 100 meters above the surface of the water. When approached by boat, they appear as almost vertical, wildly textured walls. The grounded icebergs slowly melt from both the top and the bottom until they can float free. Many initially drift south past the nearby town of Ilulissat. Sun, wind, rain, and sea sculpt the floating ice. As it changes, it can roll or crack into endlessly different forms. Gradually, the ice becomes more fragile. Eventually, the icebergs melt into the sea, although for many of the large ones, that doesn't happen until they drift far from Greenland to warmer southern waters. Comments?
Great. The one word,
Level.
yeah, level.
I like it.
Is it comma?
I'm sorry, which comma?
There's a space, the word, then there's a space, comma, space. So
Oh, I didn't see that. Good eye.
Well, tell me, I'm still not sure which image you're referring to.
okay, you have
I'll
to,
look for commas.
Not that one.
That, yeah.
No, there.
There it
There.
is.
Drip
Yeah.
south, space, comma, space past. Yeah, so we need to get rid of the
Wait, tell me, start. Where is this?
drip
comma?
south.
Image
So-
8,
Image 8 of 12.
many initially drift south, space, comma, space.
Yeah,
Just need to get rid of.
Oh, I see. The comma is out of place. Oh,
Yeah,
Right.
it should be
yeah,
south
delete
comma.
it, delete a space. Yeah.
delete a space.
Yeah,
And go to number 7 after this. You don't have to do this, but in editing, it would be tabular dash shaped icebergs.
I'm sorry, tabular what shape?
Dash, a dash. in
Hyphen.
between, not a hyphen in between. Thank you, a hyphen.
Oh,
So
a
it's-
hyphen. Okay,
It's
Yeah.
actually an adjective. It's tabular shaped is the adjective.
Yeah.
okay. A hyphen would fix that.
Yes,
Mhm.
so
And
Okay,
it
we
becomes.
also talked about losing that little tiny triangle on the right-hand side. If you
oh, that, I came across that note and I couldn't figure out which one it was for. Okay, that's in number
image
7.
7. Mhm.
Oh, I'm really terrified to take it out and try to put it
Oh,
back
I-
again.
Wait,
I-
wait, go back,
I want,
forward.
oh, we're going back.
These are great. You made some changes.
Right.
Wait,
I had a comment about,
level, sea level. Wait, back up.
Where is that?
Back up.
Number 6. Sea level.
Yeah, sea
Oh,
levy.
yeah, from sea
Oh,
level.
level. Okay, great. Thank you. So that's number 6.
is it more appropriate for sea level to be sea hyphen level?
No.
No,
Okay,
Glad we got the English majors here.
Yeah, right. How many times I read that and I still missed it?
Oh, gosh. Easy.
so I had a couple of questions. First, is this the same overview
Yep.
image?
Oh, no, this is a
No.
different one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I like this one.
I
Yeah, I like
worked
it.
on it 20 times. I couldn't fix it. So I searched through and found this one.
you
Yeah, I
did
like this
really
one.
well with this one. Yes.
I like the changes
Great
you
intro.
made, Jennifer. I think there's a great continuity in your storyline and the photos support it.
Yep.
There's one in terms of coloring. I'm going to use the word duller. Is that the one? There's, I think it might be
Yeah.
the one.
If
That,
you,
that
yeah, if,
everything else is brighter. And
Right,
this one,
if you look at the rocks and the kind of bright greens and so forth, and then you look at this.
No,
No,
it
not
wasn't
that
that
one, not that one. Which one was
was
it?
the
No,
one, was it the second one in?
that one.
That
Yeah.
one. It needs, this one has a more of a matte look to it.
More of a matte, flat look.
Yeah,
And
because it's from the
more
plane.
yellow. But yeah, but you can
yeah.
still do things with,
Okay,
with it and to bring it to
I-
the
I-
same brightness.
I think the phrase is you need more color contrast
Yes,
in the rocks,
yeah, you could bring up the greens in the HSL panel.
okay.
Better call her.
Yeah.
And you could put do you use Lightroom? We could
Yeah.
put a radial like at an angle in the middle and just brighten just that middle part there.
Right.
Where the water goes across, yeah.
I just had a thought. Let's see.
I
In
mean,
looking at the overview image, we've just been through all the color explorations. Does this look like,
Mhm.
in terms of the color grading, does it look harmonious?
It does to me. Yeah.
In other words, the top center picture, the blue of the sky,
yeah.
Oh,
seems to be a little out of range of all the other photos.
yep.
Make it more like the next one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why that one looked dull, because that was,
The
So-
blue,
That
the
was so
blue was
bright.
bright. It made everything else look dull.
but keep the blue at the bottom of the ice.
Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
cool.
That little
Bring
pool.
up the greens, bring up the greens, yeah.
But lightening the center, you know,
And
That'll
lightning,
help too, yeah.
I like your middle image, like being
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's my favorite out of it. And having it front and center works very nicely.
One thing you might try with that middle one is in the hue saturation in Lightroom there's the aqua sometimes briefs up the color. I keep looking at one little patch there's a little patch of aqua colored, sort of part blue, and sometimes it brings out colors. If you, I mean, you could try it and see if it works for you, but it might add to that little, you know, the little lines that are moving along in there that are the part of the blues. Yeah. I don't know if that would help or not.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about how to do that.
It's using the hue saturation in Lightroom. There's 3 of them,
Right.
and you can adjust the saturation or the
Sometimes,
luminosity.
sometimes this type of blue falls in the range of what a lot of software calls vibrance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
you can pull the
if you bring
vibrance
the
down.
vibrance down just a touch,
Yeah.
but you want to bring up the greens, you want more differentiation in each of the green tones. The human eye sees more different shades of green than it does of blue or red. And so the eye kind of has an expectation to see more different shades of green, and your other images have that.
But the other images are a lot closer to the grass.
Right,
This is, you know,
right.
this is from pretty high up.
yeah, but we want it to look good.
So
Steve, let me tell you, my fear is that when I was replacing these and stuff, I tried to just go to one image and change something, and it made everything disappear, and I had to re-enter. It took me like an extra couple hours
Oh,
to re-enter the whole thing.
which screen did you go to? Did you go to your image library? Did you go to the individual image? And did you click the edit button and then in the dialog come up? Did you replace the image?
Yes, I tried to replace the image, but it said it was already in the library. And so I went and found it in the library, which was a laborious process.
Yeah.
And then I tried to bring it in, and all it did was start a new sequence, and it wouldn't let me put it in the old sequence.
Right.
I'm terrified.
You just find the one that you're using and hit the edit button on the left, and it replaces it in place. So you're not actually changing any.
I see, just to not, okay, maybe I'll try that. I'll try
And you
that.
should have
Right.
that because you have your sequence, so you have all of the things. The only thing that would be extra work doing this is that you're going to change the image on your overview as well.
By the way,
Yeah,
the edits for your titles, when you go into my image library, and when you do the search at the top, you want to do title contains icebergs. What is the short bit at the beginning of these images?
But just
Oh,
put in the title, yeah, the
Yeah,
title.
if you look at Illulasat, title contains Illulasat, it'll bring up all the images as well as the sequence placeholder image.
right.
And if you just,
What-
if you put in Illulasat, parenthesis, iceberg, N% space, left bracket, you'll get just the ones in your portfolio, so you don't need to get confused as to which ones
Right.
aren't.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Then when you're on that page and you've got all 12 of the images, you'll have 12 titles right there on the page. And rather than clicking the edit button and going into all those other screens, stay on the screen with, you know, the thumbnails of all of them. Change your titles all at once on that page. And then when you're all done, click Save Changes and it will update all the
All of
text
them at
changes
once.
all
Oh,
at once.
well, that sounds a lot easier than what I did.
And be sure to change it to that at least 20 images per page so that they're all on that page.
Right, right. Yes, otherwise it cuts off at 10. Yes.
I wish it
Okay.
defaulted to 50 images all the time.
I wish I could change that as a default.
I didn't know you could do that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the bottom, also at the bottom of the screen, you know, it shows you have a choice for how many pages, but to the right of that is how many images per page.
Great.
Do that little drop down, change it to 50 at the beginning of reviewing.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Oh, I will do this yet again.
One more time.
Really nicely done.
Good luck.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Tricia.
And if any of you is trying to communicate with me and you don't hear back immediately, send it again,
Okay.
please. Because I'm doing all this end of year stuff and I'm kind of all over the map.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
So,
It's a lot of work.
onwards. Oh, come on, change. There we go.
Yeah.
What did you say? There is a genre in photography called image text, in which the photographer places text to the side of, above, below, or overlaid onto the image. In this portfolio, I interpret the genre differently, presenting a playful sequence of images that clearly have to do with text, although they may or may not contain it. Your message is too technical. You must have said something. I can't make sense of your words. You're speaking another language. Are you telling me the writing is on the wall?
Good changes.
Oh.
Sorry, my mind is blank. Your message is rather puzzling. I don't understand. Your speech is garbled.
Good one.
Oh,
Your message is obscured.
Your meaning.
meaning is it?
Your meaning, never mind. Your meaning is obscured.
Gosh.
At this point, I'm fresh out of words.
Good gracious. That's awesome.
Wonderful.
That is delightful.
That is wonderful.
Cute.
Oh my gosh.
Great idea. I like it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I almost feel like the images should be bigger here.
I agree.
I
Yeah.
I
agree.
think there's too much black.
Yeah.
I want to see the images better.
Yeah, ought to work at it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with that.
but all your wording is really great. All your titles.
Titles are fabulous.
The title changes were great, really good.
Great.
Thanks for the suggestion. It was more fun.
I find the color palette to be very harmonious.
Yes. Very pleasing.
You start out hot orange and you end up cool.
Yeah, cool, man.
Fresh out of words.
Just delightful.
That's
On number 9, I have a punctuation change if you want.
Okay,
I don't understand. Your speech is garbled. It would be either 2 sentences or a
semicolon.
Semicolon.
Yeah,
Okay. Number
Semicolon.
9.
yeah.
Or it could be,
or ellipsis, ... Sorry.
Yeah,
or even, what do they call it? An M dash, a long dash. It's like when you
Yeah.
take 2 hyphens
Yeah,
and they
got it.
run
Yeah.
together.
Got it.
Yeah.
good
And
idea.
I like it. That's good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
when you went through that, did I see something on the next one? I do this for my stepson Gabriel for his getting money, getting grants. So I'm oh, you didn't have a period.
Oh, number 10, no period.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my job to go through and make
Thank
sure
God for extra eyes.
grant.
Oh,
Yeah. Sometimes when you're limited to 200 characters, things like those periods disappear.
mm-hmm.
Oh, this isn't more than 200 though.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might be close though.
But in terms of consistency, yes, you have periods. And
One question, go back to the green one. The last one, yeah. Should I add canvas on the bottom?
add what on the bottom?
Oh,
Add
because
canvas
it's
on the
close.
bottom, so it's not quite so close to the edge.
I didn't
Hmm.
notice, but I
Yeah,
suppose.
Yeah,
If
that
off-
shadow is, that bottom shadow is right at the edge.
Yeah, yeah. Nope, that hits. Yeah.
It only needs a touch.
Of course, it means it has to be changed in 2 places, but
Yeah,
That's
but you're gonna make those babies bigger on the last one.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna redo that one anyway, huh? Okay.
Good job.
Wow, that's excellent.
That's
Really?
nice.
Yeah. Now, here's a question. In terms of making them larger, are the images supposed to be proportional to the
No,
actual single image display? So,
I mean, they have to be the same aspect
They
ratio,
have
but
to have the same aspect ratio as the original image. Yes.
right,
not the same size.
No.
right. So be careful on that so that you don't overemphasize, in terms of balance, like upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right are kind of a grouping, and then the center are kind of a grouping, and then the
Right.
far left and far right. So if you make size changes, keep it parallel, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you can do? You in the top row, you can take the first and third and put them closer to each other so that in the middle row, those vertical images can go up. Do you see?
Do you want the vertical
Oh.
images bigger? Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Put
Well, you're
them
going to make
closer.
everything bigger. So in order to fit it in, if you move the 2 outer ones on the front closer to each other, then when your
Enlarging.
portrait, your vertical ones, when you make those bigger, it can slide in that empty space on either side.
Where it gets difficult for me is I want a certain amount of space above and below the vertical images.
Well,
top to bottom.
here's an idea, but it requires some layering work to follow it. But this far left and the far right, if you move them in just a little closer, then you select the entire picture content
Right.
and then shrink or enlarge the entire amount, then they will remain proportional to each other. I don't know if that would help
So
To
if I
help
took
your
all of the
process.
images, what
Pardon?
I'm hearing is take all the images and leave an equal amount of space between them. And then pull it up bigger.
Yeah, if you move them in closer
Yeah,
and then pull the entire thing out bigger.
yeah, I'll try that. That sounds good.
You'll still have the top and bottom, go. This is only as far as you can go bigger unless you move.
If,
Uh,
if,
up.
yeah, if you change the portion just horizontally and not vertically,
You can't do that.
yes,
It's
you
a-
Yeah,
can.
no, we'll see.
It's against you have to do it, the individual items have to be in the same aspect ratio as the,
As the original images.
Mhm.
Ah, right. That's good
So-
point. Good point.
So you guys, I've gotten the feedback. I understand what you're saying, and we don't need to belabor it.
Okay,
I
onwards.
like the idea. I will make a change.
okay,
Yay, good job.
now for the fun and games.
Okay, let me,
Cheerful Nancy.
yes.
Jeez. Wow.
Art heals. During the pandemic in 2020, I failed hard on my temple tripping on a step. Zoom medical diagnosis, concussion. The big bump on my temple evolved into a big, ugly black eye, symbolic of what I felt inside. I documented via daily iPhone selfies. As a healing exercise over months, I intensely overprocess these disturbing iPhone images to reflect my fears, fog, fatigue, and eventual recovery. Join me on my journey.
Oh,
Sure feels like my head's all shaken up, and it is. Feeling discombobulated today and introspective about how this is affecting me. Fearful what the outcome will be. Sometimes it feels like I'm fading away. Hard to think. And feeling distorted. It's dark and scary inside behind this face. Yeah, inside my head, I feel out of touch with the world outside. But please tell me it's going to get better. Isn't it? Isn't it? And frankly, I'm looking rather old today. When I start to feel clarity and see the beauty within, it's still disturbing on the outside. Yes, it's actually feeling like I'm coming through this thing, that there's light at the end of this tunnel of confusion.
I made a mistake. I forgot to change the number on,
You mean the order?
the order on just one of them.
Was it this one or?
These two, I had, there
Because
is a correct order here, but I changed the number.
you changed it on the overview image, but
I changed the images, but I neglected, or perhaps I didn't hit save. And I didn't save them. It should have been
let's see.
bottom left ones. That one should be 8. And wait,
Did I go past it? Let's see.
correction, it's at near the end. That one should be 9. 9 and 8 should be flipped.
Ah,
And
okay. Yeah.
I did flip them. I changed the wording. Oh, maybe did the wording come over? I may not have changed the numbers.
mhm.
Because you, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the overview, it would seem that that's 6 and 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I just need to flip those two. I hope I got the wording that I put in changed.
Right.
Um,
You know what has to be done.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we already went through it and it's still outstanding.
I like the layout that you have, and I like the maroon bruised background.
Oh, yeah.
Was my reading more to your perception?
It was probably a little overkill, but I said, "Use your judgment." You know, I mean, it was dramatic, and thank you for your dramatic interpretation. So the third one in, you all said to change that, and I changed that a lot. That's the fading away one.
Which one? This one or the one
That's
before?
the one. That's the one I changed dramatically.
And
is it
so,
more magenta in the bruise?
Well, we said make it dark, and that's how it came.
Great, I love it.
You know, and it's at least it's kind of close to the ones to the left of it, so I wanted it to
right.
out and not look the same.
Yes, it does blend in better. Let's see if I'm just gauging relative brightness and so forth. In terms of this one, these three or so, is it my perception is that seem just a touch bright,
What?
Which one?
this one versus,
Oh, it's supposed to be bright, but
yeah,
you know,
okay.
that's my
I don't
intention.
think, Nancy, that the inconsistency that, is in the brightness, I don't think that affects anything. You've captured a real Alfred Hitchcock feeling to this, and it's very delightful.
Oh, thank you, Terry.
In a horrifying sort of way, you understand.
Well, people were saying, like with the beginning, it was I had some of the text hitting the edges, and that was disturbing. And I go, good. That's what I want. I want you to
Yeah,
You really have an understanding of dissonance, and you really
Yeah.
do well in here.
yeah,
I wanted you to be disturbed.
Well,
You did that, yeah.
composition, which I think is what really pulls it all together for me.
Yeah. I like the way you did the hair on some of the images where they're just kind of frazzled out there. And you know what I mean? I'm just thinking, how did you do that? That's pretty cool. I like it.
That's I can thank Ann. Ann's here, right?
Now, there is one thing that does strike me, and
Okay.
that is the very last photo has a white border on
Right.
it that is thicker, and I'm sure you intended that.
I
I-
saw that too, Terry.
I would make it not quite as thick.
Well, what it does is it's the light, and it stands out, and it's the finale.
Yeah, I get that. I got that entirely. But I think it's a little too overkill.
Thank you for that input, and I will
Consider.
think about that. Thank you. for
One thing that I kind of just from looking at that, there does seem to be a difference in the size of the stroke around each of the images. And if it were to get just a touch bigger as you start to heal,
Hmm.
to go to
progressive.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
Cool idea.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah, good idea.
I will.
I think your use of the gradient in this overview image is very effective.
yeah.
The red to the dark.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they don't even evaluate this one, but it looks beautiful.
How could they not?
Yeah, I know it has to have an influence. I agree. But it's not part of the evaluation process.
Your understanding of color is apparent.
It was all in two, well, the backgrounds were in, I wanted it, yeah. And I was notice how there's things wrong in the background, like I've got the how I've got edges overlapping things, and it goes kind of darker, and how the edges, it was kind of fun to have it so that you're, because it's very, very straight and stuff on the left.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just loved
It adds to the dissonance.
Yes.
I think if your bruise had been the same throughout, it would have been very tedious.
Yep.
I really like that each one has its own story.
I was concerned because the order, originally I was doing it with day X, as days went on, but I instead went with the storyline, because you'll see that I start off with a big bruise, and then the next two are less, and then you've got bigger ones again.
Yeah.
So the order isn't exactly right, but nobody mentioned it, so I'm glad, because I
Yeah.
want.
Because bruises go through different stages, and
True.
who knows, what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times it doesn't look that bad at first, and then it gets way worse, and then it gets better.
My bruises will also go to a very gray green as one of the
Yeah.
stages.
Yeah.
One thing I like about it, Nancy, is that, when I look at a portrait like this, you're trying to get a feeling for what that person's like, and so each one of these, you have like a different feeling to it, I guess I'm not saying it very well, but your attitude is much different. I mean, it's like, that fourth one, it's like you're bewildered. Will this thing ever go away? And like that. And then it's gradually you're getting better. And even though it's still marked there, and then all of a sudden the second to last one, it's like, well, I'm coming around. And then the last one is Nancy. She's happy. She's
There's the
smiling. She's
Nancy we
almost back.
know.
So it really shows the personalities. I guess that's what it is.
Yes.
Each one has its own personality that's coming out of it at the moment.
Thank you for seeing that. And for those of you who weren't for the last time, I was influenced by whoever I had shown the two, could you put back the overview?
Oh, one moment.
Sorry, I won't be long.
Oh, I gotta click share again.
Oh, okay, because if it's,
Let's see which monitor is that on?
oh,
Is it back?
yeah. So the bottom left, the two there that were reversed. What was it? Oh, those I had shown in the reverse order and in the non-compete category with a judge who said he couldn't really critique it because it's disturbed him so much that, for him, what he saw, basically what I got was that he saw an abused, somebody abused
Right.
woman.
Right.
And when I caught out of that, I was like, oh, disturbing. And Anne wrote, it texted me and she says, he got it. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I really embraced that whatever I did, I'm going to make that guy feel even worse.
Go for it.
But, but as a good thing, not to make him feel bad, but,
and
oh,
in the
yeah.
context, he'll have the context this time. He didn't have that
Yeah.
before.
He didn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, I did say what it was in my, but yes,
Right.
I'm sure when he just looked at him, he's going, oh, so I was influenced by it, and it really inspired me. So, okay. Thank you, everybody.
They're
Yeah.
wonderful. Beautiful.
Bill,
Suggestions.
Scary.
goodbye for everyone. Bill, I have something I want to
Okay, see you guys.
talk to you about.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.